What's up, y'all? A little faith, and welcome to the Thanksgiving episode of the Fagnostic Podcast. Today's guest is a friend of mine. He's the co-founder of the Los Angeles-based nonprofit Gay for Good. Tony Biel always had a passion for volunteering, crediting it with his Catholic upbringing in the Midwest. He ultimately recognized that the religion he was born into didn't really accept him, and he would have a greater impact outside the church than by staying in it. So in 2008, he co-founded Gay for Good, and it's since grown to 18 chapters nationwide, partnering with over 200 organizations in need across the country. He still serves on the board and remains passionate about volunteer work. COVID and now inflation has drastically increased the needs of the hungry and the unhoused, but the committed volunteers of Gay for Good remain faithful to those in need. Tony and the Gay for Good team work tirelessly to make sure that they are still able to provide, even in lieu of safety protocols implemented by the CDC and local governments. In this episode, you're going to learn all about Gay for Good, and Tony's going to share how you can get involved with this incredible group. And to all the non-gay allies out there, this group is for everyone and anyone. It's about building bridges. Welcome to the show, Tony. Tony, happy Thanksgiving. Thanks for being here. How are you?
Good. How are you, Matt?
I'm really good. I'm actually in Alabama, celebrating my brother's wedding and Thanksgiving and all that stuff. So it was good to get out of LA for a bit, but I'm really happy we can make this work because the work you do is so important in the city of Los Angeles and the other chapters that have been founded of Gay for Good across the country. And I want people to learn about not just what you do, but how they can get involved with it. So I'm really, really thankful that you found it fitting to join us for this cornucopia holiday. The first question I always ask people is, are you a believer?
I'm a believer of a higher power. I grew up Catholic.
I'm so sorry.
It was a good upbringing in small town Wisconsin, but like as I moved around and went to college and kind of experienced life more and more, I realized that the Catholic faith wasn't super accepting of me being gay and just that whole LGBT community. So when I lived in Boston, well, actually, I take it back. When I lived in Amsterdam, I went to Anglo-Saxon church.
Oh, let's just back up to the low-key flex of when I lived in Amsterdam. So what took you to Amsterdam?
Let's just say it was like coming out or therapy. And I felt like if I went somewhere where I could totally be me and nobody knew me, as well as being in the, pretty much the Euro capital of gaydom.
Yeah.
I thought, let's go there. And I got a scholarship to study at the University of Amsterdam.
Amazing. That's incredible. I did not know that about you.
Yeah.
Very cool.
So I went there, and funny story is is actually perfect for this podcast. I was walking through this, enclosed park area. They have a lot of them in Amsterdam, and there's two churches within this enclosed park area. And I was kind of like, I kind of want to like go to church. I kind of missed that element in my life. And I walked by this church, and the service was just kind of starting, and I wasn't quite sure, do I want to go in? Is it in English? Is it in Dutch? And this guy comes out and says, this is where sinners go. And I was like, okay, I kind of like this guy. This could be interesting. And I think I went the next weekend. I didn't go that particular morning because I wasn't like fully ready for it, like dressed for it or whatever. But ended up being like my community. Like when I was living in Amsterdam, made a ton of really close friends, both in and out of the university that went to this church. I actually joined the choir, which was pretty crazy.
What? Oh my God.
Yeah.
That's so dope.
It was pretty fun. And,
but it sounds like, just because you mentioned a minute ago that growing up Catholic wasn't so bad in a small town because it provided that community that's hard to find otherwise, especially in small towns where churches kind of run the game. But what was it like? I mean, because church is not the most important thing in society in Europe. So what did it provide you? Because I imagine you had other social outlets.
I think it was just kind of like, for me, like church was always, I loved singing in church. So like that part of it was like really cool. I thought that the history it provided me and like a closer sort of tie to just the community within Amsterdam. That's
Sure.
not like the party community. And it wasn't so much like a huge gay population within this church, but there were, a mixture of older people I became really close with, and then a few gays and lesbians that went to the church that are actually part of the choir too. So it was a cool thing. And like after church, there was like, coffee and like, pastries and stuff. So it was like a fun way of just intermingling and meeting people. There was this older woman that I became very close to, and she took me and brought us out to her house kind of north of the city and stuff by big windmills. It was just kind of I don't know, it was a cool time while I was there. And then also like when I moved back to the States, this is where kind of like, instead of Catholic, I kind of was like, well, I liked this church in Amsterdam. It was much more, community focused and accepting of whoever wanted to come in within the walls. So when I lived in Boston, I went to Episcopalian church, which is a little more like what they call Catholic light. And, I enjoyed that. And then when I moved out to LA, I also went to the Episcopalian church in Beverly Hills.
Oh, yeah.
The one thing that I found really just frustrating with the US churches, they're constantly asking their members for money. And it was just like this constant like fundraising drive. And I'm like, that's not why we're here. Like,
right.
Why is every weekend like, a couple or a family up telling how much they give to the church and they hope that other people will do the same? And it was like, that was like kind of like my frustration and breaking point, is that I was like, what is this church really even doing within the community? Like, I was like, I need to take a break. And that's when I like stepped back and was like, what do I want to do with this hour? You go to church for that hour and a half or whatever. And for a while I started doing yoga pretty, religiously. And then I was like, that's me. It's good for me. It's like me time. But like, what about other people in the community? And I started volunteering with Trevor Project, kind of got involved there. But the problem with Trevor Project at the time for me was that I was like, there's too much politics going on in this organization. And I was like,
Trevor has gone through the ringer with stuff like that.
Yeah. I mean, it's a great organization.
Yes.
Don't get me wrong.
Yes.
But I was like, I wanted to do something different, and like, again, less about like raising money but more about like doing stuff. So right around this time, the movie Harvey Milk came out, and I was really impressed by how when he ran for office in San Francisco, he ran multiple times in the Castro, and he kept hitting a roadblock in the sense of like, he had the LGBT community support, but what about the other people that lived within the Castro? How could he win them over and get their acceptance and support to win? That time the movie came out was the same time that Prop 8 was going on in California, and we lost Prop 8 for marriage equality. In order for the LGBT community to really gain acceptance and to help people know us and accept us, and that's where Gay for Good kind of came about. We founded it here in LA with Steve Gratwick and Frank Roller.
I love both of those guys so much. And both of them continue to be super involved in the community and do great things for not just the queer community in LA, but also the others, like you just mentioned.
Yeah, so they were part of my hiking group, and they were like, they kind of had been sort of asking like, how can we get people to volunteer? And like, again, like I said, all this was kind of coming at like a perfect storm of things happening in my life. And I was like, let's take my hiking group and start with gay men, which were part of my hiking group, and get them to start to volunteer. And the idea of the organization was to align with other nonprofits, but not within the LGBT community. So creating that bridge between like our community and the larger sort of greater community of Los Angeles. And we worked to basically do one service project a month. And the idea was to both get to know what their organizations were dealing with and what they were struggling with and how could we help them, but also, how do they get to know us and see us as partners within the community and helping them.
But it also bridged a gap between a community that potentially wasn't in our favor and our own well-being and benefits and rights, really.
Mhm.
And pride is great. I love going to prides, but it's a very self-fulfilling thing typically. Whereas this,
Exactly.
what you're talking about, is how you say, not just look at us, but like, how can we serve you? And when you're doing that, when you're meeting people's needs, they're far less likely to hate on you, to vote against you, to treat you as second class.
Yeah. And I think the big challenge too is kind of similar to, going to church, people wanting to go volunteer. You feel like kind of odd man out, if you will, of like if you're an LGBTQ volunteer going to volunteer with, say, a food bank or homeless shelter, whatever. Like I feel like you feel a little alone, but if you
Mm-hmm.
know that you're going to a service project where you're going to find and meet similar people within the LGBT community, it creates that sort of welcome, like what we call sort of a safer environment for you to go and be yourself,
Yeah.
and meet other people, but also do something good in the same vein. So
There's something about volunteering as well that feels like a connection to the divine, because when you're working to serve a community or serve the greater world, that to me is where the divine, if there's a divine, lives. And when you're working for that, there's the connection.
yeah, and that's kind of how the name Gay for Good came about.
Yeah.
But now, it's like the good part of it, I feel like, is we all want to do good in our lives. So it's like, I wish we could do more. This past year has been a struggle with COVID and like doing group projects. One of the areas that, fortunately across the country, I mean, where they've been able to take volunteers, I guess it's a unfortunate thing, is the whole, food insecurity and hunger kind of organizations that we work with and partner with. They've been a needed part of the community all year. But I wish we could do more and get more projects going with larger groups and things like that. But, the food bank in LA has been one of our steadfast partners for the past 13 years since we founded. And, we've done, I want to say, like 4 or 5 projects with them this past year.
That's great. And I imagine that their need has actually increased because of the amount of people who have become unhoused
Yeah.
or become food hungry.
Yeah. The food insecurity, especially like in LA, it's, I mean, not just LA, I think across the country.
Yeah.
People losing their jobs and, COVID and, just the inability to get food too, in some cases is
Right.
really stressful for families. And it's like, what do you pay your rent, or do you go buy food? And I think that's the challenge that a lot of people face. And I have to say, like, the projects that we do with the food bank, we did a bunch. So the food bank actually partnered with the LAUSD school system because a lot of kids weren't getting the school meals.
Yeah.
So they had these programs where
do you happen to know statistics on what percentage of LAUSD kids that their main meal every day comes from the school? I've seen these numbers before. I've heard
a high amount,
awful numbers about, what that means is that the meal the school provides is the biggest and most important meal that the kid's getting that day, because their parents don't make enough to put a full meal on the table or whatnot. So I'm really glad to hear that they saw that need during COVID and partnered up with them. Wow.
No, and it was cool. I mean, I don't know what the number is either, but I know it's substantial, especially in, your lower income parts of the city.
Yeah.
But I have to say, those events, they were drive-up events, and it was just like the best feeling when these people would drive up and you would literally like hand them 2 big boxes full of food. And it was just, I don't know, it was just like heartwarming. And that's what I love about our service projects, is that, well, that one especially, because you're literally meeting the people that are benefiting from it.
Yes.
Like the food shelters are a little different. And that's kind of how this, I guess, is sort of more like this sort of setup that the food bank had, was more like a shelter experience. But the shelters is like literally where the people come to get the food, versus the food bank, which is literally like a massive
distribution center.
Yeah, like 3 Costco size, huge. I mean, the amount of food that goes in and out of that facility is insanity.
Oh my God. Yeah, that's incredible.
They're able to feed, and this is what's amazing with the LA Food Bank, is that they're able to feed, or create 4 meals out of $1.
Yeah,
So
I saw that in the email you sent me, and I've always wondered how the hell is that possible? But then it breaks it down of where they also source their food from, and it's local grocery stores, it's local farmers, it's restaurants with expiring food. It's I
yeah,
mean, and then donations as well. So it makes more sense now how that dollar can be stretched across 4 meals. But I imagine inflation is we don't have accurate numbers
it's going
based.
to start affecting that number for
Yeah,
sure. I mean, I think that they still get a good amount of donation and surplus to potentially not hit that number, but yeah, I think it's going to become increasingly more difficult. But the other thing is, I feel like people, just need to shop more efficiently as well. I feel
yeah,
like there's so much processed foods that people purchase that the prices of that stuff versus a bag of rice is just
yep.
like enormous. I feel like what people also need to learn is just going back to like the days of like when I don't know if you had home ec class in
Mm-hmm.
school, but like learning nutrition and learning like how to cook, I feel like
Yeah,
is a huge part of food insecurity and like
yeah.
efficiently using your dollars that people are earning, to feed a family or feed individuals
Right.
more efficiently.
I found it. I want to know more about the grocery store's involvement in donating because one of the things, and this is not a political podcast, but one of the things I think about in my mind is like government oversight versus incentivizing corporations to try to subsidize the need. We can, I mean, safety nets, we have to have them, I understand, but I wonder if there's a way to further incentivize these big corporate companies, Amazon, Ralph's, Kroger, whatever, to do more for the community so that's not on the back of the local, state, federal government. I don't know.
They do. They donate. The last project we did at the food bank, we processed. God, I can't remember what it was. I want to say it was like 12,000 pounds of like
Jesus.
bread.
Oh my
Like
God.
so, like literally, like all the grocery stores, will basically send the food bank all of their expiring bread products,
Mm-hmm.
but the expiration dates on them are sort of like the sell by date.
Right.
The actual expiration date is a slightly, a little bit longer. So, we had to go through and like, it was literally like Lucille Ball on the conveyor line,
Right.
where it's like, this is good, this is bad. Like, it was fun in the sense that like you saw some crazy products too, that you're like, what is this?
Right.
But that was fun. And then after we finished all of that, we literally went through these massive, bins of clementine oranges, like, and basically like picked out all the, salvageable stuff. I mean, for the most part, it was a lot of stuff that was really good, but there were random little moldy ones in
Sure.
there. So you had to go through and process that. The other thing too is like when you do food bank stuff, like like food donations, like in those little bins at the grocery store, generally it's stuff that people like cleaned out their cupboards. So again,
Yeah.
a lot of that stuff is like expiring.
Yep.
So you kind of have to look at, is there a dent in it, or like what's the expiration date on it, that kind of thing. Does it have a label? Because everything has to have a nutrition label that goes through and
Yes.
passes along to the consumer, even if it's being donated. So that's a whole nother process too.
Oh, that's interesting. I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
Well, how many people do you have? I don't know how you quantify gay for good locally, but is it based? I mean, do you have the number of subscribers on email listservs, or I mean, what's the average of people that attend the events?
Yeah, so in LA, I want to say we're like between 4,000 and 6,000 members. I think maybe it's more.
Wow. Whoa.
Yeah, I mean, we've been around for 13 years, but
Yeah.
at the projects, I'd say, like I said, pre-COVID at our food bank project, our annual big one in December, we usually would have 150 to 175 volunteers. We right now, because of COVID and CDC rules, we have to keep it to around 50. Because it's just, they want to keep safe distance.
Sure.
But in LA, we work with 8 different food and hunger partners.
Okay.
Nationally, we work with 238. We're in 17 cities, I think 18 as of like this month, where we just launched in Arkansas.
Really? Like in Little Rock?
Yeah, it's going to be called Arkansas, but yeah, I mean the majority of the members in the founding group is in Little Rock.
Yeah. Wow. So how did the national franchising start? I mean, was it that people here were involved and moved to other cities and said there's nothing like this? Let's do it here too.
Well, my friends joke about the 6 degrees of separation that I have, kind of like Kevin Bacon.
Mm-hmm.
I used a lot of my network when we first started Gay for Good. So in Boston, we started, because I used to live in Boston, Chicago, San Diego, San Francisco. Those were kind of our first offshoots. And then then it started like people moving from LA, like people that were, members in LA moved to like Pittsburgh and Columbus and,
Right.
DC, New York. So that's kind of how it then sort of spawned, if you will.
Are there any in the South, like in Atlanta, Birmingham, Nashville?
We do have one in North Carolina that's been around for a while.
Nice. Like in Charlotte?
Raleigh.
Oh, nice. Okay.
That's been
all
right.
Atlanta gays, Birmingham gays, Nashville gays, get it together.
Yeah. Yeah, we definitely want to be in Atlanta. We want to be in Florida. I mean, those obviously the states where I feel like we can make more of an impact from a change in perception, change in mindset. I've
got some high profile folks in Atlanta I'm going to reach out to. I didn't realize that there wasn't one in Atlanta, and I know there's some great men there that I'm circled with. I'm gonna reach out and put you in touch with them, because I know they would be so into this.
Well, men and women, and
yes,
trans and allies. Yes. One of our this has been basically, I want to say, since our second year. We were very focused on, not just being gay for good, but being like open to the whole LGBTQ community and allies. So, from that second year, we started creating a requirement for the founding chapter leaders to be a very, like mixed group of the community. So we want to make sure that it's not all men. We want to make sure that there's the diversity of the community within.
Absolutely. Oh, I love that. Yeah. Wow. So you have the 18th chapter starting this month. How do people reach out to you if they hear this and think like, oh, I want to start this in my city?
It's just info@gayforgood.org.
Okay. Awesome. And you do social events too. And I've been to some of the volunteer events. I've been
here and there. I mean, like obviously again with COVID, it's been a different thing. My hiking group too has been sort of shuttered, but yeah, I mean, there's definitely the social stuff will come back, when we can do more of it. We used to do lunches and stuff after every event to just allow people to intermingle and meet each other. Yeah. Because it's like, I think the nice thing too about Gay for Good is it's outside of the sort of club community that people normally would meet someone. I think for a lot of people, that's not where they want to meet people. They want to see what you look like in the natural light of day.
Right. Doing decent work for other people.
And finding people that are, like-minded in the sense that they actually care about other humans.
Yeah. Is that how you met your partner?
No, we met at the gym.
Oh, okay. Well, that's also a very religious setting for a gay man.
Exactly.
How long have y'all been together?
It'll be 13 years.
Oh my gosh. So about the same time as Gay for Good's inception.
Yeah.
Wow. Oh, that's so cool. See, he's really been through it with you then to like see your efforts come to fruition and all that stuff.
Yeah, he's a good one because he pretty much puts up with all of the things that I do.
Right. he's always there too. I mean, he's always in the pictures and stuff. Yeah. I love that. How many have you seen? You what?
He's a good first lady.
Yes. Just kidding. I hope to. I sometimes there's days where I want to be a first lady, and then there's days where I'm like, no, I have too many. I need someone who'll just be there to support my dumb ass. How many people have you seen get together from Gay for Good? There's got to be some success stories.
Relationships, a lot.
Yeah. Oh, I love that.
In my hiking group too, a lot.
Yeah. Cool. Well, the big event coming up in December. What's the specs
there's
on it?
One today with Project Angel Food where they're delivering. We're basically just helping Project Angel Food with drivers. So they'll be taking out Thanksgiving meals to people in need. And Project Angel Food is an amazing organization that my friend Richard is a huge part of. Richard Ayub, and they started years ago. I want to say they're 35 5 years old. But they basically do meal prep and meal delivery for people with, kind of at home sort of chronic disease and chronic illnesses.
Mm-hmm.
So largely started for people with HIV and AIDS, and then evolved to include people with cancer and, other heart conditions and things like that, where they needed special meals. So we worked with them a few different times, and this is something they just asked us to help with. And then we have a project with them in January as well. And then our bigger project that you were alluding to is with the LA Regional Food Bank, which has a big facility in downtown, Vernon, which is kind of down south of downtown LA. That's on December 4th. It's a Saturday, and most likely will be full by the time this airs.
Okay. Well, that's a really good problem to have, but there still are email lists you can sign up for once restrictions start going away.
We're trying to do more projects per month. That's kind of a goal, especially in LA, because like you said, the projects fill up quickly, and we know that there's a need and a desire to volunteer. It's just, do we have the sort of bandwidth as chapter leaders here in LA to schedule and to lead those projects? So we're always looking for chapter leaders and stuff like that too, that will help us increase that ability.
Are there ways for organizations or concepts to reach out to Gay for Good to say, hey, we have this need because you have this surplus of now labor, basically, to say, okay, we opened up this slot for this organization. It's not LA Food Bank, but can people reach out to you for that as well?
Yeah. If we have a local chapter, they can just reach out at the info@gayforgood.org again, and, ask to, can we support a project that they're working on? Obviously, we like to get a little notice for those kinds of things, but in LA, like we just did a project where we packed books, kind of like an LGBTQ book program. I can't remember the full story around that one, but they reached out to us like literally like on a 1 week or 2 week in advance, and we got the project up and running and passed.
Wow. Yeah. That sounds so stressful.
And it filled up within like, a day or so of posting it.
Right. Oh, I love that. So I know you guys do a lot of work with schools as well, like their Chermoya elementary school over there at Beachwood Canyon. Gay for Good used to have a sign out front advertising their work with that school. What did y'all do with them?
I hope our sign is still there.
I just haven't. I just didn't want to say that it was if it wasn't, because I used to drive by there all the time.
They've been a partner of ours for, God, I want to say 10 years. Wow. They have like the most amazing parent group at that school. And essentially the parents put together a whole day for our volunteers to do certain things at the school. So we'll show up and they'll have, usually that project takes, I would say, close to 30 to 50 volunteers, depending on the year. But we've helped them set up gardens. We've painted murals. We've done cleaning. We've, a lot of times they'll have art projects that need to be hung up in the hallways. We've done deep cleaning. We've literally cleaned up their whole basement one year. Jesus. In the basement, like, it was crazy. The basement was literally like a horror film. I was just like, what is down here?
Oh my God. It's probably like a bomb shelter too, isn't it?
What's that?
It's probably like a bomb shelter too, isn't it? So it's probably like fortified and.
I mean, maybe, I don't know. It was just like some of the stuff that was down there. It was like literally like an archaeological dig. Like,
oh my God,
what is down here? But yeah, that school is awesome. And like I said, the parents, it's just cool when people just stay involved and like want to be involved in their kids and just really care about like a building or a property or an institution. Like, I feel like I even see that with churches where I'm like, what is going on with this church? Like, the garden is just sad.
Yeah.
Like, what do the people inside of this church think about like the church?
Right. And that's what I wanted to ask next, though, is because of your different involvements with what that Gay for Good does, has a church ever reached out to you to say like, A, we have this need, can you meet it? And B, we see your success. Can you teach us how to encourage our members to get off their ass and do something?
I can't remember the church. So one of our board members in Boston is pretty involved with a church out there. And they actually did a bunch of fundraising for us. I should know this.
Because Steve, I know Steve Retwick from Hollywood United Methodist Church, where I sometimes go. And he's before COVID, every Tuesday we did the we passed out food and clothing to the unhoused of Hollywood. So it was like a known thing for the unhoused population. And he had a big part to do with that. He's multi-involved with different selfless organizations and concepts. And he's such a good guy, but I just imagine like getting involved with a church who maybe doesn't support our community to be like, we're doing all that, to encourage them to change their hearts.
It's usually a church that, wants to be.
It's already affirming.
With the LGBT community. Like, obviously, I mean, there were times, I kid you not, like when I first started the organization, where I would call because I would see like a project that wanted a group on Volunteer Match. And I was like, at the time, like we didn't really, like we were trying to find projects. Now we literally have like our sort of like bread and butter sort of evergreen projects. But back then it was like, can you take, hey, I'm calling about, I saw this project, did you need group? And they would find out the gay for good name. They would hear that and there would be like a chuckle sometimes, or like a really uncomfortable pause. And, that unfortunately that was like, like I said, like 12 years ago or 13 years ago. Now I feel like people, they hear about us, they know Gay for Good and they like want to work with us. So like hasn't really been so much of a problem.
Right.
When we go to the food bank, they're like, I can tell like the team that gets to work with our group is like probably, I don't want to say fighting to work with our group, but I know that we're a fun group to be with, because the music's always really pumping. But even the volunteers like kind of dance with us and like, get into it. Like it's a fun thing. Like, so I think like they know we get stuff done too. I think a lot of volunteer groups come in and they're either like they're forced to be there or they have to get their hours for school or whatever. Whereas like, I feel like our volunteers, I think like the LGBT community has like a high level of OCD. So like we come in and we like, they'll show us like a process sometimes. And like our volunteers will be like, wait a minute, like we could do it so much faster if we do it this way. And like, we'll like literally like get so much done and finish like a half an hour to an hour early sometimes.
It's like instead of what can Brown do for you, what can Gay do for you?
Well, I mean, we just did a project at Runyon like a few weeks back, and I'm literally teaching people that work for the city how to do a sandbag. And I mean, I guess it's not part of a local politician's like job to learn how to do a sandbag, but literally I had to teach them it like 3 times.
Yeah.
And they were like, oh, you seem really like you've done this before. And I'm like, yeah, we pretty much hear every year,
right.
Sandbagging, when it would be great if we could get funding to actually build a concrete wall to hold back all of this erosion that's like literally causing, the whole hillside to come down half the time.
It would probably look a lot cuter than a sandbag too.
Yeah. Well, the sandbags they're funny because like the material is like so brittle that like when people's dogs are like running over them, it scratches them open. So then they just break apart. So it's like
it's counterproductive. Yeah.
Worthless.
Well, so with that, what are your needs? What are the needs of Gay for Good?
I think like this podcast is helpful because I think just kind of getting the word out there, I think is really good. Because I think, especially in parts of the country where we don't have chapters right now, I think marketing, word of mouth, I think is obviously super helpful. We've been taking on like staffing. We have an executive director now that's full time. We have admin that's helping. I think he's now moved to full time. So there's just a lot of work, when you're doing grant writing and things like that. We're trying to get some larger national projects in place as well, where we can say, on this day or weekend, we're going to be doing, literally 18 projects across the country or whatever that are focused on food and hunger or, nature and, whatever the theme would be. So we're trying to do some more things like that. But the nice thing about the organization is like, we're not like super like expensive to run versus like some other nonprofits where they're like doing like $3 million and it's like kind of question where the money's going. Like we're very grassroots in that regard. And we just do a lot of, great work, which is just fun to see.
Yeah, that's incredible. I'm so thankful that you felt the call to this 13 years ago, because it's as someone who's been to the events, it's not just a chance to do greater good for the world, but there really is the community aspect of it is so fulfilling. And sometimes we do need that extra incentive to get off our ass on a Saturday morning to go do something that's not self-fulfilling. And that's what it is that, I mean, you're around a bunch of fun guys who care about the world. Like you said, the music is jumping. It was so, I remember being at the food bank and them just, I mean, busting some like, top 40 or club hits or whatever. And I just was looking around like, this is so surreal. Just a bunch of a bunch of gay and allies and lesbians and other straight people just processing food and dancing to Lady Gaga. Nothing gets more church than that, in my opinion. Yeah,
it's always fun to have a drag queen there. We usually have one, but the challenge there is like closed-toed shoes.
Oh, and we don't want our drag queens in closed-toed shoes.
Yeah,
we don't. Tony, I'm so glad that we got to talk and that people can hear about this. And again, it's gayforgood.org. Is the 4 digit or spelled out?
Spelled out, FOR.
Okay. Gay for Good. Y'all check them out, get involved. If you don't have them in your city, info@gayforgood.org. You can reach out about maybe chartering one. And December 4th is the next big LA food bank event. But Tony, you said that you think it's going to be filled out, but take your chances. See if.
Yeah. And if you go to the website too, there's a list of events in each city. So awesome. You can always check to see what gets updated there or on our social platforms. But registration is usually on the website. Cool. So that's the best place to register and just kind of keep up with what's going on.
Okay. And then just to wrap it up, how is continuing to be a part and seeing the growth of Gay for Good informed or changed your relationship with the higher power or God or your view of the God you had growing up?
I just think like for me, like I've now been more focused on just kind of like doing good and like kind of like the golden rule, it's like as much as there's a higher power up there, I think we all need to like come back down to earth sometimes and like actually like think about who around us needs help and like, and be less focused on our individual selves and have that empathy. I think that's what America's kind of missing right now. And I think that the nice thing about service projects is that they're, like that safe space where no one's really talking about politics. Like they're really just going there to help out these organizations, and you can be whoever you are, and we like to meet you and have you there.
Yeah. There's I feel like I mention this every episode now, but there's a Jewish teaching that I think Martin Luther King Jr. actually referenced one time about how we pray with our feet. And it kind of speaks to what you're talking about, is that no matter what your belief system is, that effort of doing good, there's a binding quality to that effort with other people, with a higher power, with a lower power, whatever. I just love that you have created this thing that gives people an opportunity to do that.
I think there's a lot of Christians that are like, oh, da 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 da. But are you actually doing Christ's work?
The answer is no.
This is no, and that's the struggle. And like you look at these like huge, evangelists that have like private jets and things like that, and like it's gotten out of control. And I think that people need to come back to their community and really, see how they can help.
Yeah. And it's happening little by little. I remember Joel Osteen a few years ago, I think it was after one of the hurricanes, like, refused to open his church doors for Harbor. And you're like, are you kidding me? Like you have a former arena, like a former sports stadium that you can't. Okay. But people are seeing that more and more now, I think, thankfully. And I'm glad that there are organizations like yours that offer a counter to what church originally was intended for, was to have a community to serve. And there's other, it's not just yours, but there's so many out there now that are providing an answer to people's exodus from church.
Yeah. And I think that like we did a project in Filipino town where we went around the neighborhood and picked up, gobs and gobs of trash. Like so many people are constantly just complaining about things in their communities. Like I feel like people need to start doing things, and that's like, having a solution instead of just like a complaint, I think is like a huge part of what we need to strive for.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for all you do for the community, for the unhoused, for those who are hungry. for providing a social situation for people that maybe don't feel comfortable at the club or at the gym. So y'all go check them out, gayforgood.org, 4 spelled out. And until next time, Tony, we'll see you. And I've got to see if I'm in town for 12/4, but if I am, I'm going to sign up so I can be there. I really missed being involved with those events, and I'm glad that they're still happening and that the demand is so high for volunteers.
Well, you've always supported us when you worked at that one retail store we won't name.
Oh, yeah. Sometimes I think about those days when I worked at Andrew Christian, and I don't have any regrets, but that was an interesting chapter of life, and that just being immersed, not just like involved in the gay scene, but immersed in the gay scene of West Hollywood.
Sure. Well, especially where that store was located.
God, I know. I've got stories for days about that place, but this is a PG podcast. we don't get to talk about that. All right, Tony, have a happy Thanksgiving and a wonderful holiday season. Yeah, I will. All right, talk soon, okay?
Bye.
And all the people said, gay men. Thank you all for listening to another episode of the Fagnostic Podcast hosted by me, Matt Hayes. You can find me at matthayes.com. That's MATHAYES.com, or on Just the Millennial socials at Hayes on It. HAYES on it. Please go subscribe, review, and share this podcast. And in the meantime, peace be with all y'all.
Hi, Michael Spicer here. Matt Hayes forgot to put my name in the credits of his podcast as the composer, but I'm here to tell you that I wrote the music for his podcast. Whatever it's called, I don't know.